An AFC divisional round version of our Bills Take Two segment. I'm Jonathan Acosta, joined here by our Bills insider, Vic Carucci. Vic, this is the game that all of the NFL media, all NFL fans are circling on their calendar for this weekend. Bills and Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. Vic, it doesn't get any better than this one.
Jonathan, easily the most anticipated, most exciting, I think, matchup that there is on the postseason card. And that would include the AFC Championship game or NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, because this is the only game that's going to pit the two teams that played that epic divisional round game a couple of years ago. And that was the game that was so great, it forced a legacy change of rules where the NFL said it was criminal that Josh Allen couldn't set foot on the field with the offense of the Buffalo Bills after Mahomes took the Chiefs down in OT and scored a touchdown. So in the postseason, that rule was changed. Now each team will get that possession, and it's all because of the excitement generated when these two teams last played in the playoffs.
That's right, and that was a one-score game. Obviously, the last three games between these two teams have been one-score games. Mahomes versus Allen, Chapter 7. Each one has won 3 games, but Mahomes has won the 2 postseason meetings. The big difference this time, though, is the Bills get Mahomes and the Chiefs in Orchard Park in front of fans. The only time Mahomes has been in Western New York was during the COVID season. No fans. It's something that Deion Dawkins talked about this week, saying, Pat, no offense to him, he's won 2 Super Bowls, but he's never played in Orchard Park in front of Bills Mafia. Just how much of a difference do you think that makes in this one?
I think it's going to have a major impact on the Chiefs' offensive ability, what they do in terms of audibles, communication, all the things that affect the ability to get into a better play, to have better protection and route adjustments. I mean, all of that is communication that happens pre-snap at the line of scrimmage. This crowd will be as loud as I'm sure it's ever been. And for Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be very different in the postseason. He's dealt with road games before, but I don't think he has dealt with anything like what he is going to see Sunday night in Orchard Park.
And as we dive into this matchup and what each team needs to do in order to win, a big piece of that is who you have available for you to play. The Bills obviously dealing with more injuries than the Chiefs are. Gabe Davis, Taylor Rapp, among players already ruled out for Sunday. Taron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, guys with the chance to play Sunday, but they're dealing with injuries. As you assess the Bills' injury situation, who are some of the key guys, maybe 1 or 2, that the Bills would really like to go, and how much of a factor does that play, especially on the defensive side of the ball where they're dealing with more injuries than on offense?
I think the defensive injuries are the most concerning for the Bills. They have to be, and it's been impressive the way the depth has stepped up and done the job. But this, again, is a higher level of competition, much higher than they faced, of course, against the Steelers. So how do they contain what the Chiefs can do in all phases of their offense? And do they have the guys, the right guys who can do this? There's a reason players are starters and players are backups. My biggest concern is at that linebacker position, making sure all those guys can go. And I think also at safety, Taylor Rapp has been obviously an impact player for this team. Can they get Rasul Douglas back? I know Sean McDermott said a bunch of these guys, including Douglas, are going to be game time decisions. I'd be shocked, though, if the players who haven't been ruled out wouldn't play. This is a playoff game. This is a win or go home game. And they're, I think, going to push themselves, obviously within the reasonable boundaries of health, to be out there.
Right, and just a quick note in terms of practice availability. Bernard, he hasn't been ruled out, but he hasn't practiced all week. But Rasul Douglas, Tyrell Dodson, Taron Johnson, they've all been practicing this week. So it would at least seem, if you had to make a delineation between that group and Bernard, that they would be more likely to play than Bernard. But again, Bernard, he was carted off against Pittsburgh, but he has been ruled out. That has to be a good sign. If not for this week, if the Bills are able to win, then certainly next week. As we dive into the matchup, let's start off first with the Chiefs' offense against the Bills' defense. And this is the Bills' defense that held the Chiefs to 17 points in that first go-around. And the Bills didn't have Daquan Jones in that one. Obviously, injuries, different injuries this time around. But how important do you think is the battle? We talk about sort of quarterback versus quarterback, head coach versus head coach, Andy Reid versus Sean McDermott. But specifically, more so the battle between Sean McDermott and Steve Spagnuolo as defensive coordinators. If Sean McDermott can sort of be in his bag and figure a way to get these Bills defensive players in the right scheme and sort of make up for the players that aren't there, how they match up against this Chiefs offense, how important is that battle for McDermott to win, specifically the one against Steve Spagnuolo, the opposite defensive coordinator?
Sean McDermott has done a remarkable job running this defense. We've said that over again, but it's true. And as he works with backup players sometimes, that too makes it even more impressive. I think having Daquan Jones back is huge. And schematically, I can envision McDermott doing whatever is needed to make sure that Isaiah Pacheco can't take over this game and be a player that could easily tilt the outcome. I'd say the same thing for James Cook on the Bills side, because the story of this game is all about how these quarterbacks can make their throws. They're going to make their throws. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are going to complete passes, are going to make some big plays, but the key here is defenses, and let's talk about it from the Bills' perspective, not letting Mahomes' passing be the thing that buries the Bills or breaks the game wide open. I think the greater concern is, does Pacheco as a runner or a receiver do that? And that's where I think you're going to see a lot of keying on the part of the Bills D to contain him. And
let's look at the passing game, obviously, with Mahomes. You know, Travis Kelce's been the big name in the offense for a while, but recently it's been Rashee Rice, their rookie receiver, who's gotten a larger share of the targets than anyone else. Is this a situation where the Bills have to sort of take Rice away and let the rest of the Chiefs' receiving options make them beat the Bills?
I think the Bills' focus will be just as it was when they've played the Chiefs previously and as it is when opponents face the Chiefs. You shut down Kelce. You try to do whatever you can to keep him from consistently breaking your back because he's capable of doing that. And I think it's a combination of coverages, containment, having multiple people in range of him, getting him on the ground when he makes those catches, preventing those yards after catch that he's so good at getting. And it's a balance because the Bills like to play that zone sort of coverage that will protect the back end but leave openings underneath. And that's where Kelce can go to work, and that's where he's done some of his biggest damage. So I think keying on him is one thing. Rice is a concern. You want to stay behind him or keep him in front of you when you're talking about some of those bigger plays. But I think they could live with Rice and other pass catchers catching the football as long as Kelce isn't the guy that can just tear him up, because if they don't pay extra attention to him, he'll do that.
As we look to segue from defense to offense, one area that both units have a part in is turnover differential. That's something that the Bills were excellent in against the Steelers. They didn't turn the ball over. They forced a couple of takeaways, including a Kyer Elam interception in the end zone, whereas Kansas City, they've been prone to some turnovers. Obviously, turnover differential is huge in any game, but in a game that figures to be as close as this one, how much of a key will Sean McDermott make for his team to win the turnover battle, force some takeaways on defense, and Josh play another clean game on offense?
I think the Bills' defense goes into this game expecting to force turnovers and intending to force turnovers because they are facing a turnover-prone opponent, and that is so huge in any game, but especially a playoff game. It can be so dispiriting, so momentum changing if you're able to take that ball away, kill those drives that the opponent has. And the Chiefs, let's face it, hanging on to the football is a big problem for this team, whether it's turnovers or drop passes. And when you have that mindset that a team does that, your opponent does that, defensively, what you're doing is trying to force those, trying to make those hits that will knock the ball loose, whether, again, it's after a catch or during a run or in the process of getting a catch and just breaking up a pass, because it feels like those Chief ball handlers are always thinking about not holding on to the ball. That's been a year-long problem, and I just wonder if you go into the next level of the playoffs with that preying on your mind even more.
And as we look at the Bills' offense, you talked a little bit about James Cook earlier. I want to get back to that because the Bills, this is an offense without Gabe Davis. Stephon Diggs, he's going to play, but he popped up on the injury report with a foot injury. He figures to go, but that's still somewhat of a concern. And so you figure the run game, they might want to lean on that a little bit more. We've seen the Bills be able to lean on that run game against the Cowboys. Cook ran the ball well against Pittsburgh. Just, again, how important is that to get Cook going, Ty Johnson going, be able to have that two-dimensional ability against a Chiefs defense that is very well coached under Steve Spagnuolo?
It's vital for the Bills to run the ball effectively because, number one, it helps create those favorable down and distance situations, especially when you're talking about third down. And I think it puts Josh Allen at ease when he's got less to worry about in those obvious passing situations, or it creates a scenario where he can tuck the ball down and run and move the sticks that way because he doesn't have as far to go, even though we know he can go the distance every time he runs with the ball. But this is a Chiefs defense that's vulnerable against the run. That, of all the things that this top 5 defense can do, stopping the run has been an issue. They can get after the quarterback. Their secondary is really strong. And this is another reason why you want to loosen things up on that defense. Run the ball well and make sure that they always have eyes on James Cook because that can help open things up for other players. Because Cook is proving a great value for the Bills, not only as a runner, but as a receiver. And when there are other options being covered, Josh Allen loves to just, check it down to him and know that that can lead to something, or those screen passes that they can run effectively, get those outside gains with Cook handling the ball as a receiver. But James Cook, as far as how important he is to the Bills offense, I think he's a critical X factor. Yes, it's Josh Allen and the receivers trying to make big plays, but Cook could really be the guy who, when it's all said and done, makes the biggest difference for the offense.
And Vic, looking specifically at the way Josh has been playing recently, a phenomenal game against Pittsburgh highlighted by that 52-yard touchdown run. Just how do you assess the confidence that Josh has been playing with during that win streak and maybe how that filters to the rest of the offense?
I think Josh's confidence has never been greater, actually, even with the turnovers that came in that last regular season game. The Pittsburgh game, I think, for him was a chance to really find himself fully as a playoff quarterback now and make the plays that need to be made, whether with his arm or with his feet, and understand that he can throw the ball to a lot of different receivers. He had 9 different pass catchers against the Steelers. I think that'll continue. And also to lean on the running game and trust the game planning and play calling of Joe Brady.
Last question for me, Vic. In your sense, obviously this is a big game. What does this mean in the bigger picture of how you view the McDermott-Allen relationship era here with Buffalo, whether they can't get past Kansas City and it's a 3rd straight loss to the Chiefs in the playoffs, or if they are able to finally topple the Chiefs and move on to an AFC championship game and get within 1 game of reaching their first Super Bowl?
I think this is a much bigger game and a bigger opportunity for the Bills. The Chiefs have their Super Bowl rings. That doesn't mean they don't want another one, but it's a different mindset when you've had those mountains that have been scaled. For the Bills, they haven't scaled this Super Bowl mountain, all right? And to get a chance to possibly get back there for a 5th time in franchise history, but win it, is what's on the mind here. And on this group that's been supposedly a Super Bowl team for a while, to finally just do it and get past the team that's been in their way for some of that time. And they've got to make amends for what happened a year ago in this same round. They were woefully unprepared to face the Cincinnati Bengals at home. So they're at home again against another top-level team, the Chiefs, and they've got to show up. And I think they will, but that is the other judgment that's going to be there. Will you be ready to get the job done like you weren't a year ago?
I know that we'll be ready to watch this game. Like we said off the top, a game that everyone is looking forward to. 6:30 kickoff on Sunday. If the Bills win, they would either host the Texans or travel to Baltimore for the AFC Championship game. For Vic Carucci, I'm Jonathan Acosta, Channel 2 Sports.